We got to talk about this, y'all. As you all know, Trump decided to demolish the East Wing of the White House. And he says he's going to build his Epstein Memorial Ballroom over there. Now, it needs to be noted, none of this was fucking legal. He has no legal authority to just decide on a whim to destroy the East Wing of the White House and build what he wants. None of this got through Congress. None of this was zoned appropriately. I mean, he really is a clear-cut example of just act first and worry about the consequences later, and that's how he gets away with most of his shit. But if anybody in this system had some balls and was willing to stand up, you could easily fucking nip all this shit in the bud, because all of it is completely and utterly against the law, and people should be fucking locked up en masse, if we're being honest, okay? Including Trump himself. But he decided to do that. He also, redesigned the Lincoln bathroom and was bragging about that. He ripped up the Rose Garden and turned it into like a Ramada Inn cheesy ass patio. And this is stuff he was focusing on. Meanwhile, what did he do? He let Marco Rubio run the foreign policy and get us into multiple new wars. He let Stephen Miller run immigration policy and go full Nazi. He let Elon Musk and Russ Vought run domestic policy and economic policy and drove the fucking car right into a ditch, because now they're cutting pediatric cancer research and the National Weather Service and all these things that we need. So he was in the back fucking, minding his business, doing interior decoration type stuff as he listens to Phantom of the Opera music. And all those guys are driving the country into a ditch, and Trump every now and then will pop up for an issue he cares about and assert himself, like stealing Venezuela, wanting to steal Greenland. So you got that stuff going on with the East Wing. Funny enough, that was like the big thing that actually made his poll numbers crash the most, is people saw what he was doing with the East Wing, and they saw how obsessed he was with building this ballroom. And people finally, they got it. They saw in very clear terms, I'm over here worrying about paying the bills. This guy should be looking out for me, trying to lower the price of groceries, and instead he's bragging about this fucking ballroom that he wants to build. Just totally self-obsessed, complete asshole. Well, guess what? Some theories have been floated about what's really going on there with the Epstein Memorial Ballroom. And one of the theories was, and this one is more conspiracy, this one I haven't seen enough convincing evidence of, but some people say it looks like they're trying to create a data center that's right underneath the where the ballroom is, okay? That was one theory, because they want all that power and they want to be able to have this immense, this immense AI network accessible right from the White House. That was one theory. But it turns out one of the things that we just learned is true is the other theory, which started out as a conspiracy, which is that they're upgrading the Doomsday Bunker, which was underneath there. So look at this. The Daily Beast says, Trump secretly upgrading bunker where he cowered from protests. The administration is using the secretive project to deflect questions about the demolition of the White House East Wing. New details have emerged about a top-secret construction project taking place underneath the White House. A new CNN report includes what little is known about the construction efforts, focused on a defensive bunker underneath what was formerly the East Wing of the White House. The East Wing, which was controversially demolished by President Trump in October in order to build his own $400 million ballroom, sat atop a secure underground facility built by President Franklin D. Roosevelt during World War II. So you can see here, this red portion is where the new ballroom footprint, which is fucking gigantic and disgusting and a mess. But also that would be, I think, where the bunker is underneath there. Okay.
Shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and Rule Well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. It was in the gospel of our Lord, understanding of Yahweh, Hashem Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is a quick lesson through the Spirit. This is from Cal Kalinsky. It says Trump secretly upgrades White House Doomsday Bunker, an ominous sign. Makes sense because that pact that I won't say a pact he made with Greenland. I believe they shot down his provisions for Greenland because he stated that basically they need to protect, or he needs to protect the assets or protect them or protect that stronghold from the Russian forces, whatever. Because I believe they had like parts in World War II, if I'm not mistaken. I got to do more research on it. But regardless of it, man, the war is gearing up for war. The world is gearing up for war. And with this whole possibly boots on the ground in Greenland, that's going to spark tensions between NATO and the EU towards America. And on top of that, the Russians wanted to take Crimea, Ukraine, so there's war in the air. All right, and he's talking about they're opening up the, the Doomsday Bunker, which, it don't really make any sense, because if they understood the prophecies, which Esau, he don't really understand, but they do have a analytical mind when it comes to knowing what the Bible can say through watching the prophets. But the scriptures tell you that Babylon is going to be totally destroyed. So building the bunker, which I'm sure there's bunkers underneath the White House, but even then, it's not going to do them justice, because once America is destroyed, that's the end of your bunkers, because those missiles are going to level this place. Now, if they have some type of, because Washington, D.C. is pretty much within the coasts, all right, the East Coast. And, Esau does have underwater retreats. So if they have bunkers that extend from underneath Washington, D.C., that go to different parts of the UK and to Switzerland, because we know that a lot of the elites are in Europe, parts of Switzerland, etc. But him building a bunker or revitalizing a bunker under the White House, they know what time it is, okay? And I believe that's just to because like the purge type scenarios, they showed you that on the purge, when those elites, they was resorting into like their to their hideouts, man, and then watching all this chaos take place. So that would make sense, because they know that chaos is getting ready to ensue on the streets of Babylon. But I assume that, most of the higher level elites are already out of the country. Even going back into the Ovid 2020, you had elites that was literally taking their treasuries and they're taking their stocks out of certain companies, and they were cashing out. Like, millionaires became billionaires became 100 billionaires, and the list goes on. But we're in a time of war, chaos, and all hell breaking loose, and these elites, they ain't trying to get caught with their pants down. So it makes sense that they're building bunkers underneath these particular jurisdictions, man. All right, so I'm going to play a little bit more of the video and get a couple of precepts. Not going to be a long lesson, but they're trying to hide from the Lord. And there's no hiding from Yahweh Hashem Yahushai.
Here's your cat's nail. When you were trimming before, you probably hurt them because you couldn't see the quick. But now, you'll never make that mistake again. It's basically a nail clipper with a built-in light, so you can actually see where...
In addition to above-ground demolitions, the underground facilities are also understood to have been dismantled. Few details are known about the construction project, but a source with knowledge of the matter told CNN that the space will likely be replaced with new technology to counter evolving threats. All right, so pause on that. Are we talking about some semblance of a data center under there? Are they trying to get some AI shit under there? I don't know. They continue. Evidence given by a senior White House official suggests the Trump administration is using the top-secret nature of the work to deflect questions about the legality of its decision to demolish the iconic old East Wing structure without approval. At a recent meeting of the National Capital Planning Commission, the commission that would typically be required to approve changes made to the White House Director of Management and Administration Joshua Fisher said the ballroom project will enhance mission-critical functionality, make necessary security enhancements, and deliver resilient, adaptive infrastructure aligned with future mission needs.
Now, from what I've researched and, what we speculate, they stated that, under the Washington Monument, under the White House, Capitol Hill, there's underground corridors. I mean, I can really believe that. But let's see what ChatGPT say, because, these things are speculative, but we know that will be the case, because why wouldn't it be? Okay, Esau always used corridors and tunnels and shit to link certain municipalities and so forth. Like, they even reports mentioned that they have so-called bullet trains on the ground that can get from Washington, D.C. or New York all the way to the East Coast, to the West Coast in 40 minutes. Makes sense, right? The deep underground military bases, what they call dumps. You have some which is called Subtropolis, and I've seen videos of these underground cave systems that go through various states, and shit, you can go in a cave in Pennsylvania and come out on the other side of Colorado. Hell, they even have mountain retreats as well. You see, like here in Missouri, they call this the cave state, because you have what they call Subtropolis, which is a 55 million square foot underground complex. That's square feet, so you're not even tapping into a third of what's underground. And these cave sensors are known to leak various states underground, so it make a lot of sense. Does United States have underground tunnels? Maybe that's too vague. Let me see something here. Ooh. Okay. So it says, yes, United States have numerous underground tunnels ranging from everyday infrastructure to historical, secretive, and even some military-related ones, which is called dumps, deep underground military bases. However, the scale and purpose vary widely, and many popular claims about vast hidden networks, especially in conspiracy theories, are exaggerated, unproven. That's bullshit. You know, they quick to call something conspiracy, but it makes sense as how these elites are moving around. Think about like the trafficking ring, the sex trafficking, how these kids are being transported to and fro. You know, whether it's through planes or particular company vehicles or semi trucks that people never think to check. But a lot of this stuff is going on underground because the real technology is underground. You know, the shit that you would think that the shit that they got in China, you know, as far as bullet trains, they got a lot of that stuff underground here, man. Okay, when they say Esau doesn't invest in his infrastructure, well, for the people, he don't care. But for himself, he has the credit de la creme. It says the U.S. is full of practical underground tunnels built for transportation, utilities, and services. It says hundreds of tunnels across states, including roads and rail tunnels, like the Eisenhower-Johnson tunnels in Colorado, the longest highway tunnel over 1.6 miles, and Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel in Alaska over 2.5 miles. Now, we're not talking about for commercial use. Okay, we're talking about for, you know, private use for the elites, passageways to travel these corridors to get from point A to point Z to do this, their wickedness and secrets. Okay, we're not talking about shit that you and I can go and end up on the other side. No, we're talking about secret underground military bases. Show you that in movies all the time. It says the Delaware Aqueduct, 85 miles long, is the longest in the world, supplying water to New York City. Chicago has 60 miles of abandoned freight tunnels, once used for coal and Google deliveries, also during the Prohibition too. It says Seattle has preserved underground streets from the 1800s, now a tourist attraction, has extensive subway tunnels, old streamlines, and historic passages like abandoned Atlantic Avenue. Government and secure tunnels, here we go. Washington, D.C. has a well-documented network of tunnels connecting to federal buildings for security, weather protection, and quick movement. Tunnels that link Capitol, Library of Congress, Supreme Court, and other sites. Some date to the Cold War era and serve as fallout shelters, which is bunkers. A famous one connects the White House to the Treasury Building, built in 1941 for presidential evacuation. These are restricted but not entirely secret. Some pedestrian ones are public. But other government facilities include Cold War era bunkers like the Greensboro Resort Bunker, designed for Congress, or Mount Weather in Virginia. Now, military and secret facilities. It says the U.S. has confirmed deep underground military bases, often called DUMBs in discussions, built for continuity of government and defense. You got the Cheyenne Mountain Complex in Colorado, a famous NORAD facility carved into a granite designed to survive nuclear attacks. Good luck with that. You have Raven Rock Mountain Complex, known as Underground Pentagon, and they're real and publicly acknowledged, but details are classified. Now, here, this is where they get a little finicky, because they want to label everything of conspiracy theories, but that's not always the case. Conspiracy theories have proven to be right again. But many online stories claim vast, interconnected secret tunnels or underground cities. I believe that, linking different international airports to bases of massive networks for elite/lizard people. The lizard people is symbolic for, they say reptilian, but that's the serpent, like the basis of their nature. You know, sly, cunning, witchcraft. So it's not like they're not actual lizards. You know, at least may look like a fucking lizard, but they're not turning into lizard people. You know, even though they're demons and can probably do manifestations and sorcery, but you know, it ain't, nah. But it says while abandoned tunnels and bunkers exist, evidence for continent-spanning secret networks is lacking, which they would never reveal that. You know, even if it was, they would never tell the truth because that's the point of them swearing to secrecy. But it says most claims stem from urban legends, misinterpretations of real infrastructure, or unverified sources. Real underground spaces like storm drains or old subways sometimes fuel these ideas, but they're not hidden military empires. But in short, underground tunnels are very real in the U.S. Some are mundane, some are historic, and a few are highly secure, but the wilder tales of hidden world beneath cities are mostly folklore, which yeah, right, the scriptures don't say that. So let's see what the scriptures say. All right. Isaiah 2 and 13. Matter of fact, let's start at verses uh 6. It says, hold on one second, Slakia. Okay, Isaiah 2 and 6. It says, therefore thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob, because they replenish from the east, and are soothsayers like the Philistines, and they are pleased themselves in the children of strangers, which proves that them strangers, them heathens, are not going to make it, all right? Because you had Jake that was partaking in the likings of the heathens. It says, that land is also full of silver and gold. Even though this is talking about Israel, this prophecy is dual, it's manifold. Their land is also full of silver and gold, neither is there any end of their treasures. And their land is also full of horses, neither is there any end of their chariots. And their land is full of idols, and they worship the work of their own hands, which their own fingers have made. And it says, and the mean man boweth down, and the great man humbled himself, therefore forgive them not. But enter into the rock and hide thee in the dust, which the dust is confusion, for the fear of Yahweh and the glory of his majesty, because the Lord is coming back with those ships, man. All right, and when we get beamed up into those ships, we're going to come down and we're going to have those new angelic bodies, and we're going to have, that's where we're going to be truly Superman. And we're going to buzz down in those bunkers, and we're going to have our way with the heathen. It says here, the lofty looks of men should be humbled, and the haughtiness of men should be bowed down, and the Lord alone should be exalted in that day. Yeah, because when Yahushua comes back, he's coming back with war. That's why these elites are hiding, man, because they're trying to escape their judgment. It says, for the day of the Lord of hosts should be upon everyone that is proud and lofty, and upon everyone that is lifted up, and he should be brought low. And the pride of these elites are on a whole level, because this dude Trump basically stated that, look, we gonna take Greenland, man. So he took Venezuela, he gonna try to take Colombia, he wants to start war with Iran. He wants to take the world, man. And he said, we gotta do it through military force, we just gonna do what we gotta do. And it says, and upon the cedars of Lebanon that are high and lifted up, and all the oaks of Bashan, and upon all the high mountains, and upon the hills that are lifted up, and upon every high tower, and upon every fenced wall, and upon the ships of Tarshish, and upon all the pleasant pitches. And it says, and the loftiness of men should be bowed down, and the haughtiness of men should be made low, and the Lord alone should be exalted in that day. And the idols he should utterly abolish, because America is full of idolatry, man. It says, and they should go into the holes of the rocks, which is those caves, and into the caves of the earth. And the holes of the rocks, too, goes into those mountain resorts, those retreats, because they have them in the mountains, too. It says, for the fear of Yahweh and for the glory of his majesty, when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. And that's going into the nuclear missiles. And it says, in that day, a man should cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made each one for himself, to worship, to the moles and to the bats, to go into the clefts of the rocks, and to the top of the ragged rocks, for the fear of Yahweh. And from the Lord, it says, and for the glory of his majesty, when he arise to shake terribly the earth. So that's going into the nuclear missiles, man. So these elites are preparing to escape the judgment, because it's in the spirit for them to do so. Because they're going to escape the destruction. But through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai, we're going to grab them up and we're going to put them headfirst in slavery. Okay, that's in the book of Psalms. I think it's 147, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to put them head first in captivity. All right? This is the book of Isaiah 24. And I'm going to start at verses 19. It says, the earth is utterly broken down, and the earth is clean dissolved, and the earth is moved exceedingly. How? Through nuclear war. Okay? Because the scriptures say that the earth shall rock to and fro like a drunkard. And it says, and the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. That's the next scripture. And should be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof should be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. Yeah, because once this rulership is broken down, and the Lord puts an end to this wicked rulership, all the wickedness cease. And you heathens, you're going to go in captivity under us, man. And we're going to grab you elites up out of them bunkers, out of them caves, and we're going to put chains on you, and we're going to throw you head first in slavery. And we're finna read it. And it should come to pass in that day, says Yahweh, shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high. That's your elites. Okay? And the kings of the earth upon the earth, which proves that there's no such thing as hell, because why ain't they going to hell? It says, will punish the high ones, the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. meaning judgment take place on earth according to the book of Ecclesiastes. And it says, and they should be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and they should be shut up in the prison, and after many days they should be visited. Yeah. So we're going to grab you up and we're going to put you in slavery, man. Thus says the Lord. Okay, so let's play a little bit more and I'll get the last precept and I'll end it.
Okay. When asked why the Trump administration demolished the East Wing without seeking the commission's approval, Fisher cited the sensitive nature of the project. There are some things regarding this project that are frankly of top secret nature that we are currently working on. That does not preclude us from changing the above grade, above ground structure, but that work needed to be considered when doing this project, which was not part of the NCPC process, Fisher said, according to CNN. In addition, the White House argued in a court filing made last week in response to a lawsuit seeking to stop the construction of Trump's ballroom that doing so would, quote, endanger national security and therefore impair the public interest. The Daily Beast has contacted the White House for comment.
And this dude, Kyle Kulinski, is a Jake. I think he may be an Ephraimite, or I think he may be Northern Kingdom. I always thought he was a Jake. He just got too much flavor to him, and he talks a lot of shit. Nigga low-key may be a Benjamite. He look like he can be one of those Israelite foreigners, but I think he's Northern Kingdom. He can be either a Gadite or he can be an Ephraimite, either or. Maybe an Iskarite, who knows? But I think he's definitely Jake. I mean, just look at it. You look how he wears his hair. That's some shit an Iskarite would do, or Ephraimite. And he looks like he's Northern Kingdom, by the way. You don't look like a typical white boy. Like, you don't have the features necessarily this devil right here. But, you know, who knows? Maybe a Edomite. I don't know, but I think he's a Jake.
The facility beneath the former East Wing previously hosted the Presidential Emergency Operations Center, which was utilized during the September 11th attacks and later by Trump in May 2020 during the George Floyd protests. In response to reports about his use of the bunker, Trump demanded that officials find and prosecute those responsible for leaking information to the press. In his book on the 2020 election, Wall Street Journal reporter Michael Bender wrote, Trump boiled over about the bunker story as soon as they arrived and shouted at them to smoke out whoever had leaked it. It was the most upset some aides had ever seen the president. Quote, whoever did that, they should be charged with treason, Trump yelled. They should be executed. Above ground, Trump envisioned a new 2-story building that will host his extravagant ballroom, complete with monumental stairs, guest suites, and passageway connecting it to the main residence. One of the few...
Yeah, that's why he wouldn't charge somebody with treason unless they're directly swearing secrets and going against the United States. You know, treason is when you kind of betray your country. Isaiah 29:15. Woe to them that seek deep to hide their counsel from Yahweh, and their works are in the dark. And they say, who seeth us, who knoweth us, right? They do their works in secret. That's why he wants to charge people. You know, all this information we're bringing out is why he wants to ban their internet and have a small head task force to come. Like the IDF, they're training the ICE agents right now. They basically, IDF, and word to the grapevine is that they have dual citizenship too. Same thing they was doing to those Palestinians and motherfuckers in Gaza, starving them out, making sport of them. They have the same training to these ICE agents, you know? So, the Gestapo tactics, you know, slave catchers, man.
Pieces of the 123-year-old East Wing to be salvaged. A bust of President Abraham Lincoln was relocated to the West Wing colonnade. Quote, I got this from the East Wing, Trump told his 18-year-old granddaughter Kai in a vlog titled Christmas at the White House. This came out of the East Wing, the famous East Wing. This looks good, doesn't it here? The same man that did the Mount Rushmore. Okay. Something fishy's going on here, bro. Something fishy's going on here. And the Occam's razor interpretation is they are upgrading the emergency bunker. They're upgrading it. They're redoing it. They're improving upon it. Potentially there may be some creepy thing like some AI data center that's being created that's going to be used. I don't know about that part. But the fact that, national security leads me to believe for sure they're upgrading that bunker. Now, the part that's so fucking creepy about that is, as many people pointed out, he's moving like he'll never have to face an election again. He's warmongering with fucking everybody all the time. He just kidnapped Maduro from Venezuela.
Yeah, that's why he's getting ready to hide out. They hiding out because, I mean, shit, they know they're starting a war. And then they know that eventually it's going to spill over to a hot war, which is going to include those missiles. That's going to destroy this goddamn place.
Venezuela. He's coercing and extorting the new leader of Venezuela. He's threatening to steal Greenland. He also has threatened Canada in the past, Panama, Cuba, Colombia. The list goes on and on top of bombing Nigeria and Somalia and Syria and Iran. And you got all this stuff, all this warmongering going on. And when I look at this, I go, does he have plans to do something like actually drop nukes? Does he have plans that are so above and beyond what anybody's thinking right now that he knows, I'm going to need this upgraded bunker, that's why I'm upgrading it. And when the time comes, I will unleash hell on the world and I will go into that bunker. It's totally fucking ominous. It's totally fucking creepy. And at this point, with how mentally gone he is, as we've seen firsthand time and time again, you got to start asking these questions. Why the fuck is he doing this? Totally illegally, didn't get anything approved. Why is he doing this? What else does he have planned? What hell does he have that he's...
Motherfucker, World War III, the fuck you think he hiding in there for, dude? Use your fucking common sense, bro. He's starting with declaring fucking war on the whole world, bro. What are you talking about? Comment says shit is about to hit the fan and the elites are preparing to hide themselves. We just read that. That's right. It says, and when they do, the survivors must find the vents and pour concrete to give them rain. These people are crazy. I'm gonna let you know now, all these people on the comment board, they all gonna die. All right, these people, they don't mean shit to the elites. The elites care nothing about these people. Okay, the United States does not have Esau does not have his citizens in mind. Okay, he's looking out for himself, and that's what he's gonna do. That's why they stole 99% of the wealth from you people. Okay, you people can barely afford a back-to-school book bag for your children, and you think you finna escape Jacob's trouble? The purge? No. You people are cooked, man. Revelation 6, and I'm going to start at verses 12, and it says, and behold, when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell into the earth, even as a fig tree casting her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And those stars are talking about those missiles. It says, and heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Yeah, World War III, when those missiles are shot from the ends of the earth, it's going to rearrange shit on the planet. It says, and the kings of the earth, and the great men and rich men, Trump is a rich man, right? It says, and the chief captains and the mighty men, and every bondman and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and are in the rocks and the mountains, the bunkers, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come. Who should be able to stand? Okay? So with that, all praises and glory and honor is due to Yahweh Shemi Hawashai. Lord's will, you are edified. To the next lesson.